Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Range is hot. Lock and load. It's time for the Gun Rack with your hosts, Joey and Drew.
And welcome to the Gun Rack, the Sonoran Desert Institute School of Firearms Technology's official podcast. I'm Josiah Upper. Folks call me Joey, and with me we have one
Drew Poplin.
Drew Poplin. He is here, and he is moments away, seconds away, by the time you hear this, from becoming a married man. How does that feel?
It feels pretty awesome, not gonna lie. I thought I wasn't gonna get married till I was like 40 or something like that, if at all. So yeah, this is an absolute win.
It's for your body to become 40.
It's really,
like, in terms of crotchetiness.
Yes, it's really the true realization of the dad bod.
Yeah, yes. You've been rocking that for as long as I've known you.
Yes.
And you were like 24 at the time, so it works. It works. This man, sorry fellas, off the market as of November 11th, Veterans Day. Very exciting. Actually, I'm excited for us to have some content for you guys for that week. And of course, this week, we are going to talk about a process I just went through to choose a new carry gun. We're going to make this a two-parter. We're going to go through some of the ones that I looked at this week. And then I think we actually have one in between part one and part two. But then the second part will be what we actually picked and why. And I'm very excited for the opportunity to share it with you guys. Before we do that, though, as always, Drew Poplin is on the clues. Drew's clues. What do we have?
So last week's answer was the Galil Ace.
Yes.
A big favorite of Joey Upper. This week,
so good.
We're going to mix it up a little bit. I'm not doing a particular firearm, but a firearms maker.
Okay.
Yeah, and this one's a little bit older. So pretty much to get this right, fill in the blanks. In 1868, blank and his three sons, Wilbur, Charles, and Dexter, had started the blank gun company, which continued as an independent company until 1934, when it was purchased by the Remington Arms Company. It was phased out of business by 1942. Between 1867 and 1942, the company produced 242,000 guns at various price points, most of which were shotguns. And some of its famous users include Annie Oakley and Tsar Nicholas II. So who am I talking about? What firearms manufacturer am I talking about?
That's an excellent one. And actually, I don't know the answer off the top of my head. However, if you do, ladies and gentlemen of the Gun Rack, what are we going to call our fans? And should we even call them fans? People that have clicked on us by accident. What shall we call them? I don't think we've ever discussed this.
I don't know. Maybe we should put it to them if they have any suggestions. Yes.
The Scourge, the Gun Rack Scourge, the Gun Rack Mafia. Are we going to go New York with it?
Ooh. I kind of like the sound of that, the Gun Rack Mafia.
The Gun Rack Mafia. Okay, folks of the Gun Rack Mafia. And if you have a better idea than the Gun Rack Mafia, you send it to marketing@sdi.edu, and you tell us what you think fans of the Gun Rack, if there were any, would be called, should be called. But those of you who know the answer to this question, also go ahead, send an email, marketing@sdi.edu. You tell us what this manufacturer is, and we will send you some swag if you're the first one to get it right. If you are listening to this on YouTube, or just feel like commenting on YouTube instead of writing in an email, you can do that. Sonoran Desert Institute is the name of the channel, and we publish. Do we publish every podcast episode now through there?
Yes.
Yes, and we do monitor those channels' comment threads. So we should be able to pick you guys up just as fast as an email, or just about. So, sdi.edu reach out. Let us know what you think. All right, so let's talk about Sonoran Desert Institute. Sonoran Desert Institute is an online school with focuses in firearms technology and unmanned technology. We're talking about drones and gunsmithing here. Accredited by the Distance Education Accrediting Commission, that is the DEAC. The school offers one associate program, it's the Associate of Science in Firearms Technology, ASFT. There's also the Certificate in Firearms Technology Gunsmithing, CFTG. And then, of course, the Certificate in Unmanned Technology Aerial Systems, CUTAS. If you are interested in any of these programs or just want to know more about Sonoran Desert Institute, hop on to sdi.edu for more. All right, how's that? How's that for an ad read?
I thought it sounded pretty good.
Yep. The nice thing about podcasting for an entity like Sonoran Desert Institute, for one thing, you know that your values are aligned, which is a nice plus. But on the other hand, when you are doing your ad reads, like listeners don't have to listen to an ad for Manscaped again, which is pretty sweet. We're not plugging anything but Sonoran Desert Institute, and then occasionally Zip Fizz because it's the right thing to do.
That's just out of that's out of love.
Yeah.
Respect.
You noticed when Drew and I started this call, Drew made a comment about my being a little more upbeat than normal. Do you know why?
I'm gonna venture to say it's Zip Fizz.
It's Zip Fizz, baby. I am more powerful than I have ever been, and it is thanks to Zip Fizz. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not an official SDI opinion, but if you want to know what fuels goblin mode, get yourself some Zip Fizz. Totally worth it. So good.
Question.
Drew, yes.
Who was the person that came up with the expression crop preserver, and why do they still have a job? That expression for like on the Manscaped ads is like, it bothers me.
Crop preserver. This is the first I'm hearing from it. When you said crop preserver, I'm imagining a guy with like itty bitty teeny weeny like donut floats like you would toss to someone in the ocean, but instead they're like throwing it out to individual sheaves of wheat. It's a crop preserver. It's like, it's a marketing exercise. It's like, here's this thing, or it's a Who's line. We're like, improvise this. It's the crop preserver. Is it like an attachment? What the heck is a crop preserver?
So it is anti-chafing deodorant.
Okay. Into that conceptually.
Yes. I don't know why they refer to that as crop. And I'm not sure I want to know why.
Goodness gracious. That's kind of odd. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you out here, 6 eyes save lives. They truly do. You walk around a bunch. Chafing is one of the worst things in the world to happen to humanity.
That is true.
Just the worst thing. So you out here with anti-chafing material, I am here for you. Maybe don't call it crop preserver, though. It's just a thought. All right. So let's talk about some new concealed carry options for everyone's friend, Joey Methuselah Upper.
Ooh.
I know, a little spicy there. But I just went through a process of selecting a new handgun. I think we alluded to it in earlier episodes. There's some good news, some bad news there, which I'm going to go ahead and share anyway. Some illness prevented me from taking the Recondo tactical class that I think we plugged in earlier episodes. And I think that was the initial intention for this week. Super bummer. And I had already paid for it. So I just wasted $100.
I'm sure they're not mad, though.
I was about to say, it's going to people that I support, so I'm into it. But huge bummer there. But I am hoping that this will make up for it in some small way. And then I'm going to go out and put some rounds through my new concealed carry handgun. And we'll do a review that way, and hopefully that'll make up the difference there. But sorry for the disappointment. Recondo is one of our most popular episodes ever already, and as soon as I am capable of bringing a part two to that to you guys. I absolutely will. It'll just be a little longer than we hoped. Definitely a bummer.
But we are replacing it with something pretty cool today.
Yeah. So we're talking about concealed carry, as we have been a lot lately. And actually, Drew and I were talking about, we're like, we probably should lay off concealed carry for a hot minute. We've done so many things in rapid succession, but this one is like, sometimes we're talking about things in a hypothetical or ethereal sense, and that's fine. But this isn't talking about what it might be like to purchase, X, Y, or Z if you were thinking about it. This is something that actually happened. So I thought walking through what that was like, what that looked like, would be of some value to you guys. If not, maybe listen anyway. We already have your downloads, dude. You're stuck with us. So let's, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and then you can leave and come back. And leave, clear your cache, and then come back so we get another download.
And for someone who's looking at making a firearms purchase here soon, I'm going to find this helpful. So if nothing else.
Yeah. So with, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys my exact permit situation so you guys get the context of why it took me so long to get this started. So I am in a state that recognizes non-resident permits from other states. The state that I have my permit in is Arizona, and I do not live in Arizona. But when I put my application in initially, or was initially looking, there was an enormous backup of processing time in my local area. So instead of going through, normal local, in-state, in-county, that application, I went with Arizona because they were reportedly moving a little faster. And so I got my concealed carry permit out of state, non-resident, with Arizona, which is valid in the state where I am currently. And I'm very grateful that the legislation here is such that they recognize out-of-state permits to make that possible. I say all of that because, for one thing, if you are out of state getting a permit, you frequently will not be given the same information as those in state because laws vary state by state, as you guys know. So if you have something like that, or if you're in, I'll just use Tennessee as a reference. Tennessee is a quote-unquote constitutional carry state, which means you do not need a permit to carry concealed on your person. And because of that, a lot of people, the temptation could be there to not know your state and local laws for carry. You are still obligated to those laws, even if you didn't have to go through a class to get it, or a class specific to your state to get it. So no matter how you get your permit, know your local laws and regulations. Because of that situation, I had to also purchase pistol purchase permits. And what that means is fairly self-explanatory, but if I had a concealed carry in my state, that would act as my pistol purchase permit. Since I don't, I have an out-of-state one, I had to go back and get pistol purchase permits. But to the credit of the county in which I live, they seem to have cleared their cache wonderfully. I got an announcement on their website that said, hey, sorry about it, but it's going to be 6 weeks until we get these things turned around. I had it back in maybe 10 business days. That's an estimate. But they turned it around very promptly. If I had known that they were going to be that dialed in, I probably would have just done my concealed carry with them. They really seem to have tightened it up, and I'm very grateful for that. So I now have, while I've been concealed carrying again for some time, I finally had the means to go out and get another concealed carry firearm. For those of you who are listening for the first time or happen to have missed the episodes where we referenced it before, my standard concealed carry handgun for the past, I don't quite remember, is the Sig Sauer C3, which is essentially a Commander 1911 chambered in 45 ACP with an officer's grip. So you're looking at 6+1 rounds of 45 ACP in a 4 1/4 inch barrel. It is a phenomenal firearm. I'm not even a 1911 guy, like at all. I got it because at the time it was just a work of art. So way back when I got it, I was just enamored of this incredible firearm, and found out it was very conducive to concealed carry too. But it is a 1911, which means a couple of things. I have had zero issues reliability-wise from this handgun when shooting not remanufactured ammunition. But capacity is not as strong as some others might be. It's also chambered in 45 ACP, and I normally prefer 9mm. And 6+1 rounds is I just don't view it to be enough. And even if you have extra magazines on you, you're just adding one more variable. I'm a huge proponent of concealed carry firearms being as convenient as possible while remaining safe, because the more convenient something is, the more likely you are to actually carry that thing, which is the whole point, right? So I was thinking, okay, I have just left, this is really recent, I was like, I've just left SDI full-time. I am just about to start writing for these guys and podcasting for these guys as a contractor. I want to celebrate the time I had there, and this seems the most appropriate way to do it. Let's go find something. Concealed carry seemed like a great place to go. I have some full-size handguns that I really enjoy, but I wanted to get something that I could concealed carry very comfortably with a decent capacity that I could just kind of set and forget for the foreseeable future. So I went on a bit of a research spree, and I'll tell you guys, there are some really cool options out there right now. For those who are interested in compact firearms, semi-compact firearms, dude, they are everywhere. There's been an explosion of them, and I think we made fun of on the podcast people taking a certain build of a firearm and them making slightly bigger and smaller versions to hell and back.
Yeah.
They're really, if you are keyed into one particular spec, there is something made just to cater to you. That's really cool. I think that's really the heart of where we are right now. The tech is so good in concealed carry firearms that you're really able to dial in on what is most important to you. And while there's no such thing as the perfect firearm, you can get really close to what's going to suit you best. So without any further ado, I'm going to go through some of the options that I looked at before making my final purchase. And I will tell you guys that I looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, handguns before I made my final choice. And it included me stopping my purchase mid-purchase at the gun counter where I picked up my firearm, much to, well, not really to the annoyance. They were very cool about it, but to the mild annoyance of the person there, because I pulled the trigger, no pun intended, on one firearm, and the second I did, my heart was like, nope, wrong one. Pick the new one.
But hey,
So
that's an
we're
important
gonna
thing to
dial-
consider. So, I'm glad you did it.
Yeah, well, sometimes you make a call on something, and then the second you do it, you made the right one or the wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
Is one of those moments, and I find those to be more prevalent in handgun purchases than any other space in my life. That's the case for me. I know a lot of people do that for cars. You can do it with a house, which is always a bummer. But for me, I did come out with exactly what I was hoping for. It just ended up not being what I expected at all. So let's look at some of these options, and a lot of them actually ended up being in the striker fired space, which is not normally my space at all. I'm pretty much a hammer fired kind of lad. But let's dial up a classic first and get it out of the way, because I considered something that I never thought I would in this lifetime.
Oh,
Do you want to take a guess?
was it a Glock 19?
It was not a Glock 19, but it was in the Glock family. I did look into the Glock 26 pretty hard. Can you go ahead and dial up the specs for that one?
Absolutely.
So while he's doing that, the reasons I thought about Glock are fairly, I mean, some of the most popular handguns in the history of humanity as Glock, chambered in 9mm. Capacity in 9mm is good. With the 26, you're getting enough rounds, and we'll talk about capacity in just a minute, to make it worth your time. And with the 26, there's a kind of a thickness to the handgun that's not overbearing, which sounds kind of like a silly spec to focus in on, but the width of a handgun is something that I find enormously important. And the 26 does a pretty good job there. It's, it's not winning a beauty pageant, but it's not supposed to. It's a concealed carry gun. So do you happen to have that up?
Yes.
Excellent. Fire away.
So fires 9mm. Were you looking at the black finish? I mean, it's a Glock, so I'm assuming yes.
Yeah.
Double action. The barrel length is 3.42 inches. Round capacity is 10+1, and it weighs 3.15 pounds. Is there any other specs you want me to go over?
3.15 pounds? Is that must be loaded?
Yeah, with an empty mag, it's 610 grams.
Okay, that's a little more.
Oh, yeah, that's with the empty magazine, and then without a magazine at all, it's 550 grams.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the Glock 26 is a classic, and it had some things going for it that some other ones didn't. One thing I was trying to make sure that a concealed carry handgun had, and we're going to look at this a little bit more as things go on, is barrel length. I like a good balance in a handgun, and I like the longer your sight radius is, frequently the better, unless you are a superb marksman, and if you are, way to go. And you don't have to be, making one hole out of, with 5 bullets for a personal defense firearm. That's not really the point. But you want to be confident that you can use it competently. Can you go ahead and list off the MSRP?
MSRP. And I just want to double check. Is that the subcompact?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm looking at guns.com right now. Let's see. Glock G26G3. They have it for $526.99.
Okay. That feels about right.
And it says retail price is $599.
Yeah, that feels about right. I probably should have added one of my restrictions here. Capacity, I did not want to go below 10 rounds. That could include one in the chamber, but I didn't want to go below double digits. And I did not want to go above $650 before tax. Things to keep in mind as we're going through these. So we're looking at, if I was able to spend $0 on a handgun, that works awesome. But we're looking in that kind of mid-range for a firearm here. Glock 26, that's what we're looking at. Barrel length is decent. The grip is a little short. And I ended up moving past it, not because there was anything against it, but because there were things to commend other firearms.
Mm-hmm.
On a similar vein, the Smith & Wesson M&P 9 subcompact was one we looked at as well. This is not the Shield, mind you. Shield is a single stack. The M&P 9 subcompact, if you can dial that up, is a very similar to the Glock 26. It's double stack. Capacity is comparable. Some of them come with a manual safety, which makes a lot of people happy. And they are just rock solid reliable, just like the Glock is. I think of the M&P as being very similar to Glock in a lot of ways. And if you don't like Glock, like me, but still want to get all of the advantages of a Glock, or most of them, M&P, you could do worse, right? Do you have those specs up?
I think so. I just want to double check. You got the M&P M2.0 subcompact?
Yes.
Okay. Then I do. So again, fires 9mm, has a capacity of 12+1, steel plus white dot sights, not optics ready, and no thumb safety, but weight is 25 ounces, length is 6.6, width is 1.5, and height is 4.98.
What'd you say the barrel length was?
3.6 inches.
3.6 inches. I think I remember that. 3.6 is kind of the sweet spot for a lot of these, and something I thought was a huge plus for the M&P. They also have the Shield Plus right now out there, which is getting a lot of love. I won't go into the specs of that one because I ended up looking at the subcompact more. Actually, the main reason I did not purchase the M&P subcompact is it was not readily available when I was looking to purchase. I would have to order it online. That was really the only thing that prevented that from being what I ended up going with. Although what I ended up with, I'm very happy with as well.
I did forget to mention the MSRP on that, by the way.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
The MSRP on it, according to guns.com, the retail price is $569, though they are selling it for $416.99.
Sweet. Mid 400s, post tax. You could do a lot worse. You could. So that's the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.09 subcompact. Now we're going to get into some weird ones. So I like two brands a lot. Pop quiz, Drew. Do you remember the ones that I talk about most on here?
I'd probably say IWI is one of them.
IWI is definitely one of them.
Off the top of my head, maybe SIG.
SIG is not, but we are going to have a SIG in the list, and I do talk about SIG. Some CZ is the other one. And there is the CZ P10. I think it's the M, P10M. Go ahead and look that one up. We might actually have 7. I don't remember if I dialed that one up. The CZ P10M is a micro compact 9 made by CZ. It's a striker-fired handgun, and it is also not going to be winning any beauty pageants out here. This is going to be a quick one. If you can go ahead and just do the capacity on this one, I think that's why we got rid of it.
Yeah, the capacity is 7+1, so that was kind of below your...
Yeah, that's what did it. But, and then the other, they have a different, I think it's the P10S is subcompact, and it was too thick. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I think that's what the issue was. CZ is awesome, and the MSRP for these guys is pretty good. A lot of people, as I was doing research, were talking about why is everyone sleeping on the P10 series? And if you are interested in that at all, I would hardly recommend going to somewhere where you can rent a firearm. See if you can't get yourself a P10 to try out. See what you think about that. But that was one we thought about. Now, the whole thing that kicked off the search for a new carry, I told you the reasoning behind it, but like the catalyst moment came from the handgun we're about to talk about right now. And this is the IWI Masada Slim. Can you look that one up?
The Masada what?
Slim, yep.
Okay, cool.
This is one I was very interested in. Available, you'd have to order it online. They're very new to the market, like capital V, very new to the market. There was one factor that eliminated this one for me, but it was a really, really cool handgun and still is. We had the opportunity to shoot the Masada at the Palmetto State Armory Range Day in March, and I very much enjoyed that handgun. It's pretty well balanced. I think it has the base model is a 4.1 inch barrel with a 17+1 magazine. That's off the top of my head, though. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But can you go ahead and rattle that stuff off if you got it?
Yes. So fires 9mm, semi-auto. Striker fired. Magazine capacity. It looks like it's 13, but they also have 10 listed. Either case, that met your,
it's probably Cali compliant would be my guess.
Barrel length 3.4 inches, weight 1.27 pounds without magazine, 1.4 pounds with magazine. 3-dot sight, MSRP $450.
Did it have the thickness anywhere? The width of the gun?
Let me keep looking.
Okay, I'll talk about it while you do that. One of the reasons I ended up not going with this firearm is first of all, this is a pretty solid option. If I happened to have one at the counter, I might have walked away with it. But the barrel length I was trying to get as long as possible. This one was a little bit shorter. And I was a little concerned about holster availability because of how new the firearm was. Now, there are lots of places out there that have these things pretty much as soon as they're off the proverbial shelves. But I like to get weird hipster holsters, and I wanted to get something that was capable of that. And so barrel length, time it would take to get to me, and then holster availability were the big limiters here. But the price in the mid 400s for something from IWI, I would buy a toothbrush from IWI for $450. That's such a good value. IWI makes such good firearms. If you are looking at a mid-capacity firearm, this is a really cool option, I think. And I would strongly recommend either the Masada itself or this Masada Slim as options for you guys. The sweet spot for me capacity-wise is really in that 10 to 12 zone. It prevents the grip from getting too long, which is something we'll talk about before too long here. But that's essentially all that went into that decision. Did you ever find the width on that thing? If not, we can let it go.
On the Slim, I believe it's 1.02 inches.
I believe that's correct. Huge. I mean, that's a little gun there. So huge plus for me was the width of this firearm. The length of how tall the firearm was not a plus for me, but it's not bad either. So Masada Slim, definitely worth a shot if you are interested in looking at it at all. So we've done the Glock 26. We've done the MMP MMP9 subcompact 2.0. We have done the Masada Slim. We did the CZ-P10M. That brings us to 4, I think. We've got 3 more. We're up to 7 now. Sorry. But I am just remembering them. And then the 7 is the final answer, though. We have 1 more from Smith & Wesson. We have 1 from Sig Sauer. And we have 1 from, of all places, Kimber.
Oh.
Yeah. So the one I'm going to eliminate, by the way, is, and one that briefly entered the conversation, is the Taurus G. I just call them the G anything. G2, G3, G4. Taurus makes a good striker-fired handgun. They do. For whatever reason, in my hands, I have not found that they fit right. The trigger goes back to a point where it hurts my finger, at least on the G2, and that's why I eliminated them. It might be that the newer ones, that's not an issue at all, but don't sleep on Taurus ever, really, at this point. People like to poke fun at them. Those days are gone. They are not what they used to be, and they make some pretty cool carry handguns at this point. So Taurus, go check them out sometime. Let's talk about the Kimber R7. The Kimber R7 Mako is also not going to be winning any beauty pageants. It's not a very attractive firearm. A lot of people poke fun at Kimber because they are a 1911 manufacturer, and a lot of people, they have when I was first getting into handguns, Kimber had a reputation for being Mercedes-Benz-ish. This is where you go to get fancy 1911s, right? If you're artisanal, go get yourself a Kimber. But the more I got into the firearms community, the more I heard people say, hey, Kimbers they're not reliable. Kimber 1911s don't work right. And while I always thought it would be kind of cool to own a Kimber because it does have some brand recognition, once I got my hands on the Sig Sauer C3, it was like, why bother? Honestly, I already have the best 1911 I will ever want. Why, move over to Kimber? I've got that quality right here, right now. But the Kimber R7 Mako is a radical departure from those 1911s. Do you have the specs up?
Yes.
Go ahead and read them off.
So 9mm has a height of 4.3 inches, a weight without magazine of 19.5, a length of 6.2, a width at the grip of 1 inch, and its magazine capacity flush is 11+1.
11 plus 1 is a pretty sweet spot. Did they have the barrel length in there?
Not on this particular site. I can look that up.
Okay. So we're right in that sweet spot for capacity. I really like the 10 to 12 range, especially with the 365, the SIG P365 stack and a half kind of vibe that's been out there has really made that 10 to 12 capacity magazine. The chassis around it is just exactly the right size. This one comes into that. The reason I did not go with this one in particular, and whenever you find the barrel length, if you happen to see the MSRP, do that as well. But I remember it falling correctly within the price guidelines that I had set out for myself. The big one for me for this one was, I believe it was barrel length when
3.37 inches.
3.37 inches. Yep. We went with something a little bit longer at the end of the day. Basically, philosophically, the Commander, the C3 that I have with the Commander barrel and the officer grip, philosophically is where I'm at for concealed carry. I want the longest barrel I can get while comfortably concealing and the shortest grip I can have without sacrificing too much capacity or balance. And a lot of these are very similar lengthwise as they are height-wise. Makes for kind of a boxy handgun, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, my priorities are a little bit different. As a bigger dude, the less grip I have to hide, the easier life is for me. Pretty significant part of that search for me is baked into that. It's kind of embarrassing to put weight into reasons that you're picking X, Y, or Z, but that is the truth, and you want to be honest with yourself when you're considering concealed carry. So barrel length was an eliminating factor. I believe I picked this one up at the store, held it, and it was kind of cool, actually. This is not one I did a deep dive, lots of review videos and written pieces about a lot of these. This is not one of those, but I thought it was an interesting pickup because Kimber is just not known for that kind of thing.
We also have a written piece on it on our website, if I'm not mistaken.
The Mako?
Yeah, because didn't George do an article on that?
Oh my gosh, he did. Go check that out. SDI.edu news tab. Check out the Kimber R7 Mako. He might have even more insights than my flailing around audibly. So that
Different medium.
Different medium for sure. That's the Kimber R7 Mako. So we're really down to two options here. And I will tell you that these two I'm about to list off are the two. I picked one, got it to the purchase counter, halfway through stopped, and went to the other one. So these are the final two contenders for that. One is the Sig Sauer P365 XL. Can you go ahead and dial that one up?
P365 XL?
XL, yep. Now, we did an episode poking fun at the P365 with the XL macro.
I believe so.
SIG really likes to add words to their base model of firearm. The 365, the first one, the original P365, for all of the digging on it gets, there were concerns about drop safety at one point. I think there was a recall, but I don't have that in front of me, so I'm not going to say that for sure. For all of that, this ridiculously tiny firearm with a 10+1 capacity redefined the micro compact market, especially in 9 millimeter. And SIG is right to try to capitalize on that even more. The biggest problem, a lot of people that I shoot with, people that I know, and people that know what they're talking about more, people that should be doing this podcast instead of me, complain that people they work with, people that shoot the firearm themselves, very rarely do they find someone that take this really excellent in terms of concealability handgun and comfortably and happily operate it. It's just too small for so many people. I think it's actually a pretty aesthetically pleasing gun. It's not very gainly, especially if you've got really big hands like I do. But the P365 base was never an option for me. So they created just one step bigger. And by step, I mean really half a step. Can you go ahead and read the specs off for this one?
Again, 9mm, double action, has a barrel length of 3.7 inches, round capacity 12 plus 1. It weighs 20.8 ounces. The weight is 20 plus 7 ounces, and overall width is 1.1 inch.
1.1 inch. And I can tell you, not all written handgun widths are created equal. This is an extremely thin firearm, very small. It scratches a lot of the itches for me, right? 3.7 inch barrel is significantly longer, 10% longer than a lot of these other ones we've been talking about, right? That's hugely important to me. It's got double round capacity without being an oversized grip. It's just a hair longer than the 365 was, or is, I should say. It's not like it died somewhere. And it's the sights on it are super interesting. They're night sights, but they're like when you pick this thing up and you aim down during the day, the rear posts are very muted. They're not blacked out, but it's like, what? I held it up once. I was like, what in the world is going on? And then at night and dark, it just pops up this beautiful, vibrant night sight. It's just great. So their sight system, really solid. I found that when I wrapped my hand around the grip of this firearm, I was just barely all the way on. I think pinky is grossly underrated as something to be paying attention to, this kind of thing. I think you really should be able to get some purchase with your pinky. It's just a really solid iteration of a firearm that in my personal opinion, was just a little too small the first time. Capacity's good, barrel length's good, sight's solid. And of course, there's availability in holsters too, because the P365 family is just going gangbusters up in here. So that was option one. Option two is the Smith & Wesson CSX, which I think we've referenced before. I know for a fact we shot it at the range day in March as well. Can you go ahead and dial that one up?
The Smith & Wesson
CSX. So the Smith & Wesson CSX is a very small hammer-fired handgun, single action only, chambered in 9mm. It comes in 10 plus 1 or 12 plus 1 rounds. The 12 plus 1 magazine is like a bajillionth of an inch longer than the 10 plus 1. If you go on and read reviews, everyone's like, forget the 10 plus 1, just go 12 plus 1. It's better. It is a very compact handgun and fell within our price range here. A lot of people, or one YouTube review in particular that I was thinking of when I was researching, I spent a lot of time with these two. One of them posed the question at the beginning, why make the CSX when you already have the Shield Plus? Shield Plus kicks wholesale butt. It's so good. And the Shield is, as successful as any of them out there. Why go and do a hammer fired? And then at the end of the video, he said, why have the Shield Plus when you have the CSX?
Ooh.
Like, what's the, yeah, he was so pleased with it. So it's like, why even bother with the Shield Plus? You've got this ridiculously awesome handgun, can totally change the way you carry. So do you happen to have those specs up?
Yes. So the weight is 19.5 ounces. The length is 6.1. The width is 1.12, and the height is 4.6.
Yeah. Very small handgun. Do you happen to have the barrel length?
They do not, but I can look it up for you.
You keep looking, I'll keep talking. So the 10 plus 1, the 12 plus 1 difference is microscopic, but for whatever reason, and this wasn't even just a me thing, a lot of reviewers online found that the 12 plus 1, not only for capacity was great, but it also gave that pinky purchase. However, when I was holding this handgun, and again, we've talked about this before many times on the podcast, I have really big hands. And the biggest part of my hands is the palm. I've got normal length fingers on NFL-sized palm of hand. They look super insecure about my hands, is the point. But this one, I was concerned about pinky hanging off, and it was when I got my hand around it, it was just hanging on for dear life at the very bottom. Did you happen to find the barrel length?
3.1.
3.1. So this one it just straight up is smaller than the 365 XL. So those were the two options I got down to at the store. Both are excellent. I mean, there's not a single one of these that I looked at and was like, yeah, not only am I not going to use this, but no one else ever should. That never entered the equation. And if you happen to see any of these and you're looking for confirmation bias, here it is. They're all really good options. But our second episode in this series should probably be a little shorter than this one, is going to talk about why we ended up with the one we did. And then we're going to dial that one up on the range before too long. We'll do a review there. I hope you guys found this a little helpful in your experience. We're going to wrap this experience up next time. Yeah, for now, we're going to put pause on the concealed carry search.
Leaving them on a cliffhanger.
Leaving them on a cliffhanger. If you want resolution, it's this. There are now more options for double action, single action, striker fired, technically double action. You get what I'm talking about. Handguns out there than ever before. And in that space, you can really dial in what is important to you. And even when you dial in what's important to you, you will still have options. I mean, how cool is that? We are living in a golden age of availability for these firearms. And while I think it is so important to be able to support local shops and businesses, you have the resources of just a whole country in a lot of cases to pick your firearms out. If you cannot purchase locally, if I may recommend shipping to your local FFL so that they get the transfer fee at least. But that is your conclusion for today. Whatever your style, whatever you have come to love, there's something for you, and it's probably reasonably priced too. If you have a particular priority that goes above all else, if you need a super budget handgun, go with a Taurus, G2 or G3, even a G4. If you are super focused on size, go get a 365. If you just care about having something that is single action hammered fire, the CSX is out there. And on it goes forever. It's so encouraging to see where this business has gone. All of these gun companies are fighting for your dollar, and that can only mean good things for you. So that's the conclusion for this episode. How's that go? Is that better?
Yeah.
So before we get out of here for the day, we're going to talk about Sonoran Desert Institute one more time. And we already did a little bit of a plug for it, so I'm just going to lean into it. George Demopoulos, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. He's a good friend. Awesome writer for SDI. He does a lot of our guest writing here at the school. He did a piece on the Kimber R7 Mako that would be worth your time if you are curious about taking the next step in finding a new concealed carry handgun for yourself. So if you hop onto the news tab under sdi.edu, I'm hoping it's published. That's more of a Drew thing than me, but it should be there. Check out the Kimber R7 Mako, get that spec sheet, and do a little more research on your next step in the world of firearms. That is the Kimber R7 Mako, and that is sdi.edu. Check out the news tab. There's loads of stuff for you. Now, before we walk out of here today, we need to do some Tales from the Range. What do we have today?
I did also just want to confirm real quick that article is up. So give it a look.
Very good. Give it a look. Do it.
Do it now.
Do it now.
So this comes to us from Reddit. These next couple will. I actually originally had these sort of written up for last bit of October, and I kind of just forgot to put them all in there for a special. So these are more gun range horror stories, cautionary tales. And this comes to us from UGA Bama Law, which they're both a Georgia Bulldog and Alabama Crimson Tide fan. I'm very confused.
Duality of man.
Yes. I saw someone who was a fan of both the Eagles and the Cowboys, and that people were losing their minds.
Oh, they aren't?
I can't explain it. But anyway, over the past couple of years, I've read several horror stories about the complete lack of safety. Several people have experienced at their non-range officered public ranges. The range I frequent is a public range in the middle of a national forest, but I've never seen anything obviously stupid or dangerous until this past weekend. So, at the end of a ceasefire, a guy at the end of the range announced that he had set up a tannerite target and for us to not be surprised when it blows. Now, I know this is illegal at this range, which, side note, probably should have been, your first hint to get out of there or tell someone.
Yeah, maybe scoot.
Yeah. He says, now I know this is illegal at this range, but he was only 100-yard rifle range, so I figured, what could it hurt? Just a little boom, no big deal. Not to mention the police would have been over 30 minutes away, and I didn't really feel like getting into it with this kid. Anyways, 2 or 3 minutes after firing started up again, I see/feel/hear the explosion coming from 15 lanes down the range. This guy had set up the block of tannerite about 25 feet in front of the range. So his clothes were covered in a layer of dust, and he says, if it had not been for my safety glasses, I would have gotten debris in my eye. Needless to say, the other patrons were not pleased. I hoofed it out of there and haven't been back there since. Which, again, I'm going to put that on you, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, very not good having tannerite 25 yards from you on a public range.
Yeah, no doubt. But if you see anything hinky like that in a range where there is no authority there, just remove yourself from the situation.
Yes.
Just go ahead and get on out of there. Live to fight another day. I'm glad this guy was okay. Don't be an idiot and put tannerite up at a public range. Fun as tannerite may be, it's not the right time or place.
I will say the stories get a little scarier from there. So, yes.
Uh-oh. Well, folks, stay tuned next week for creepier Tales from the Range with our good friend, Drew Poplin. For now, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Gun Rack. Have fun out there. We will see you at the range.
Sonoran Desert Institute is an online school accredited by the DEAC. It is headquartered at 1555 West University Drive in Tempe, Arizona. For more information about how you can craft your firearms future, visit sdi.edu.